Welcome everybody to episode 125 of the Startup Show. Today I'm here with the CEO of Twint and I'm very excited to talk about the future of payments, how innovative Switzerland actually is, and the collaboration between the biggest banks in the world. Make sure to stay tuned. Welcome to episode 125 of the Startup Show. I'm very excited to be here in Bern at the offices of Twint with their CEO. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome you.
It's a great pleasure to have you on the show, because today we are discussing a little bit something slightly different than usual, which is something I don't want to take away in the very early beginning of the video. But as usual on the show, the CEO gets about a minute to introduce themselves to my audience. So please take it away.
Okay, thanks, Cédric. Yes, my name is Thierry Kneissler. I'm 47 years old, and now since 2014 I'm leading Twint. Before that, I was for 11 years at PostFinance in different positions. At the end, member of the board. My background was all the time finance, so I worked for banks and I studied economics before. Living I do in Bern with my family and 2 kids.
Okay, very nice. Okay, so actually PostFinance we also had on the show once, one on the carpool series with Mazda. We did a little tour here in Bern, which was fun. But let's talk a little bit about the differences between working for a corporate, which you did at PostFinance, and also working now in a startup or what we call a corporate startup.
It's very different.
Yes,
it's very different. I mean, working as a corporate, there were many meetings, many people in the meetings. This was one thing I learned here. When I was in the corporate world, there were usually 10 people in the meetings. When we are here, then we are 2 or 3 people. So we really focus so that we go on that one. It's much faster. Also, decisions has to be taken. You can't work for weeks or months on a topic, but you have really to decide within a couple of days. And what I also see, and this was especially in the beginning, it was very special, the responsibility is really much higher because okay, this is now really the room that decides, and there are no other people who will. And then I mean, the speed, being really at the market, being out with the people, with the market, this is different from corporate world.
And let's say when you look more on a focus on being the CEO of Twint, what is it that fascinates you, or let's say to be more practical, gets you up in the morning, being excited about the job?
It really excites me that we can create here the future of payment, the future of digital payment in this country. I mean, you don't have many possibilities to do that in your working lifetime, and we have it here. Sure. So this is really great, and really to create something. So it's not like, I mean, in this digital age, I mean, many people just say, oh, this just happens, but it's not like that, right? You make it happen. We can make it happen here. And this is the fascinating thing, really, to do something, to see what happens, and to see what changes.
So, I have a lot of audience from outside of Switzerland. So maybe just to get us all on the same page, give us maybe a brief introduction about Twint, what we see here in the background.
Yes.
And so we get a little bit of an understanding what exactly it is.
So Twint is the digital wallet of Switzerland. So you as a client, you have an app, you download it, and then basically after 5 minutes, you're up and running. You can use it to transfer money between people. So we can exchange money within seconds. I can send you money through my app. I can buy in e-commerce. So, for example, #1 shop in Switzerland, Digitech is on it, and I can buy with Twint in stores, for example, at Coop. I can use it in machines. So basically, what our goal, what our ambition is, in the future, people will pay with their phone. I think everybody agrees on that. The question is, when will they really use it, and so on. This is then another question. We also believe that, and we want to make sure that Switzerland is paying with Twint.
What's very interesting about Twint is its history. It was a bumpy road in the beginning, definitely. Also, when you think of the merger with Paymate. So maybe you can reflect on the early days of Twint and give us a little bit of an explanation. What drove all of these banks, which we also discuss a little bit later, to actually start this movement, I guess?
Well, I think we had different phases. Something like 4 years back, so 2014. There were many people in the industry who saw, hey, there is something coming. So mobile payment is coming. And then in Switzerland, we started basically with 2 initiatives. One with Twint. This was with PostFinance together. The other one was Paymate, where 6 and banks did something. After 2 years, we found together, and I think that's absolutely the right way, that we said, okay, hey, listen, Switzerland is a big country, but worldwide we have bigger countries, right? So it makes absolutely sense to join forces in Switzerland, to have one solution, to build it here. Because what we need in the end is scale. We need scale on the client base, so we need the people using it, and we need scale on the merchant side that they also show up. And this is much easier when you do that with one solution than with two. Sure. I think, and it was really great that we found together in a couple of weeks, and I think this is not heard of in the banking world that this happened, right? This was a couple of weeks that we did that. The good thing is that was really that everybody knew, hey, we should have one system together, and really having this strategic long-term view, putting it together, this makes sense. Having two different systems, this doesn't make sense. And then everybody was in there, and everybody signed up for that.
Maybe elaborate a little bit more on, let's say, some name dropping of all the banks that are actually involved, because I do think it is a fascinating scenario that we have right now, having so many corporates on such different levels to be involved. So maybe, give us also a little bit of an introduction of how you got all of these banks, and maybe name a few.
First of all, we have all the big banks on it. Yeah. That's namely UBS, Raiffeisen, Credit Suisse, PostFinance, Cantonal banks of Zurich and WO. And then we have also many further banks on the system. So these are the banks that are owners of Twint today. So they share the ownership. And we have around 60 additional banks on the system. They're as partners on the system, not as owners. So basically we can say we have almost every bank in Switzerland on the system already. And then a further owner is SIX, the major payment provider in Switzerland. So basically we can really say that this is an industry initiative, so that everybody is in there and there's not one big bank missing.
Sure.
And I think this is important also for the future.
The critical voices would say, we created in here, and with this, let's say, kind of a monopoly. So there's you don't get around using Twint. But I guess the numbers also showed in 2017, that's the latest number I found, that you gave prize to the 500,000th person, which actually a friend of mine reached out to me saying that he knows her.
Okay.
So that was funny. But beyond that, I saw also your vision is to grow to 1 million users, if I understood correctly, within this year, which is probably one of the interesting questions, the why and how you get that, and how you got to, that's only a sixth of the Swiss population. So
yes, absolutely.
Maybe you can elaborate how you got to this number of 1 million.
Okay.
And number two is how you're getting there.
1 million is just, this is a milestone that we said, okay, we want to reach that, and then we want to go further. In the end, in a couple of years, we want basically that everybody is using Twint. This is the long-term vision. We grow at the moment of around 1,500 persons a day who really join up the system. So that makes something like 10,000 new customers. So we now, today, you mentioned 500,000, we're now closer to 700,000 on the system. And this is a great achievement that we have. And this is possible because all the banks are joining, because really the joint forces are in there. This million clients, we will reach that. I'm absolutely confident that this will happen within this year. The question is then, and this is with all mobile payment systems the case, we bring in something new in the market. We are basically in habit-changing discussions for people. The big question is, how do we bring people that they use it then also? And this is something that we say, hey, listen, we use it through this peer-to-peer function. This is fully network effect. So the more people who have Twint, the more valuable is the network. And this is not linear, but that's exponential. So when we will have 1 million people on the system, it will be much more worse than having 500,000. It's not double, so perhaps 10 times the worse. And then we're very strong in e-commerce. We see that. We also increase there our offerings, because also that's what merchants tell us, and also people tell us, hey, it's the most convenient way to use Twint at e-commerce. And these are drivers. And then we also have a good offering at the point of sale with vending machines and so on.
Sure, but you don't use, let's say, I don't know, some kind of promotions online, Facebook advertisements, something like this, to get people really it's also interesting to get the new people, not just people who are offering it to their friends and say hey,
definitely.
Send you some money.
We're also doing marketing like every other company. But for us, it's more, as I said, right, we're getting now, this number is 10,000 a week on the system. So it's more for us, how can we motivate people to use it? That's more the question, also in that area.
So if you look at all of these collaborations you currently have and partnerships with all of these banks, can you point out maybe some of the biggest challenges that it is working with such institutions?
It's a challenge and it's the opportunity that we have there. You have big corporates, they have their own processes. We found a good working mode at the moment. But yes, I mean, in the beginning, it was we had to find each other. We had to find each other. I mean, here's a company that has now 50, 60 people. And then we work with all the major banks in it. I mean, each of them has X times 50 people. I mean, they're not all working for Twint, for sure. But I mean, this was definitely a challenge in the beginning, but we found a way. We found a way, and especially it was great to see that everybody really is motivated. So everybody, also the big corporates, they said, okay, we see that, we have to find also new processes, and we have to decide faster because we need to move fast here in that area. Because in the end, I mean, basically we're not in the traditional banking game, but we're more in the tech game.
Yes.
And when we see who the competitors are, I mean, you mentioned before also perhaps advertising, Facebook and so on. I mean, one can imagine that Facebook once gets a competitor in that area, and I mean, they move fast.
Yes, they move.
And we have to. We also have to move fast. And I think we're now in this. We have now the processes that we can move fast.
I see probably one of the two main challenges, which I didn't hear now in your answer so much, is number one, regulations. What's maybe coming from the FINMA, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and on the other hand, connecting all of these banks on a technological level. Do you see like the collaboration is going so well that this is never an issue?
To first go for regulation. Yes, it is an issue, regulation, but we're really working great together with FINMA. Twint itself is regulated, and we have a license now for something like 4 years, I mean, since we started. And I must really say in there, I mean, this was very cooperative and this was very fast moving, so I can't say anything negative, and I will not do that because it was really, but it was really very supportive. And it's all, I mean, you read sometimes that regulation is not fast, but I really can say that now for our case, regulation was never a hurdle. So that was not a question. I mean, yes, technical integration, this was a challenge. From autumn 2016 to spring 2017, so within 6 months, we integrated the Twint system to 6 banking systems and also through the 6 system. So in the end, we integrated the Twint system into 7, 8 other systems. And this was a great, I mean, you can imagine, this was a great adventure also, and also we had many hurdles in there, but we managed. We managed, and I can say now, and this is now really the good thing that we have now, we're through that. We're through that. That's done now. These connections are here. They're up and running. We're now in operation. So I must say it was a challenge to do it, but we had to do it, and we did it, and now we move forward.
When you look again moving forward, right now payment is the main thing. Is there any other features or things that you're saying are in the pipeline you're currently working on?
I mean, basically, we will always stay with this nucleus of payment, because I mean, it shall be a payment app, so you shall use Twint when you pay. But what we're going now very strongly into areas where we say, okay, where do I have today payment processes that are not so smooth? I mean, one example is parking. Parking is usually not so very smooth. You have somewhere you have to find your coins, and then in other places you have to find your card, and you don't have the coins. So these are areas where we say, hey, yes, payment is an integral part of a process, but we can improve the process, so we do it. So this is one part, and then another part, I mean, there are many examples, but another part where we have, especially for loyalty cards. I mean, also when you are at the point of sale, you most of the time have to show first your loyalty card, and then you have to pay. These are two processes. So also we integrate that. It will definitely be payment also in the future, but it will be more like payment enhanced. So moving into the process.
Interesting you're saying that about the parking, because I had the mayor, Corinne Mauch, on my show.
Okay.
And she said like one of the innovations that is coming up is going to be that you can pay the parking with some mobile solution.
Yes.
So we'll see.
So we hope that Twint will be one of them.
It seems like you also have, specifically when you're in the payments, you see like what's going on left and right. I'm saying like you're definitely not the only solution, specifically not in Switzerland, but also definitely on a global level. There are many other people. Do you see any specific trends, let's say, in terms of payments, other startups that you would say like are, I wouldn't say like competitors, but you would say like, they do similar things or different things that are too similar to say like, to not look at them at all?
They are the obvious ones in the market. They are the obvious ones. They are the global giants. Apple Pay you can take. You can take them very, very successful in China. Alipay, WeChat Pay, and all these. So basically, yes, I mean, we see a big movement. What we see definitely, and this is the trend that will go, everything goes to the smartphone. I very strongly believe in that one. I strongly believe in our case now that we also have national solutions that we integrate, as I said before, into the payment processes, in loyalty parts and so. And this is then that what differentiates us. And there I see, I mean, in that broad area that we are tackling it, we don't see many doing it here. We see it as strong, I mean, those that have already that broad offerings. These are more the Chinese. When you look at them, I mean, they can do everything. You are on their app, you can buy a ticket, you can buy a trip, you can exchange money, you can do everything. And I think this is more like the way where it's going. It's not to say that we will do everything of that. This is not necessary, but we see more that kind of solutions that's going there. So basically to come back to a question about competitors, I really think we, and this is our strong belief, we have here our market. And we are strongly positioned to be there, the number one position, as I said, with all these ownerships, with all the banks using it. And we must use that one. So for us, the biggest competitor is more like people's habit, that they're still using cash and still using cards. So we have to find that one, and not so much, I mean, other solutions that are coming.
One of the questions I'm most excited about asking you is, you know, like you get a very holistic view on the actual innovation striving here in Switzerland, because I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, but most of the times, you know, the World Economic Forum tells us we are number one or number two on the innovation index, but you actually get to see all of these banks that are considered, let's say, less agile, less lean. And I would like to hear, you know, if you see that innovation in real life. Do you see that?
Yes, absolutely. I
mean, the desire to innovation. Let's say.
No, absolutely. I mean, we see that now. I mean, I can especially talk about our case. I mean, we see much strongly that, and this has changed in the last couple of years, that we see, okay, this, I mean, the whole innovation process also changes. It's very much about collaboration. I mean, this is, Twint is the best example, that the industry got together. I mean, you must still see, I mean, these are competitors. They're not, this is not one company, but these are 10 companies, and each is a competitor of the other one. But then in some areas, and especially when it's now moving into digital space, and so it's everything about network. And having a network, you must have a big network, otherwise it doesn't work. I mean, we see that strongly now, perhaps also not only technical innovation, but also innovation in business models. And this is changing, and especially now for payments, I can say that we have here now, I think, the right business model. This needs the collaboration of everybody. And I think we see that now. When you would have gone back 10 years ago and say, hey, you will all work together in 10 years in that area, perhaps everybody would have said, oh, I can't imagine that.
Do you have a combined WhatsApp group, or how do you communicate with all of them?
No, I mean, we communicate, not WhatsApp, but them through systems. I mean, we have a huge collaborative space.
Okay, cool. I mean, you know, like to be also on the more critical side, is there anything that you would say, you know, without, you don't have to mention any specific names, but something that you would say these corporates could still work on, you know, in terms of innovation? In
the end, you can always do more,
Yes.
I think. But especially now in our case, I couldn't say much more because everybody's really committed and doing it. But I think, I mean, we have other in this industry initiatives. I mean, I'm sure you heard of the electronic ID. In the concept itself goes in the same direction. And I think, I mean, there might be others. There might be other areas. Because I really think it's more about the game that, okay, do we still have a place also as a financial industry in 10, 20 years in the world?
Yeah.
I think it's very much about that area. And there it's needed to collaborate together. So perhaps one what could say, but it started that there are more areas where one could collaborate. Sure. But now, especially in our case, I can say, no, I mean, this is the way it should go.
Sure. When you think of payment in about 5 to 10 years, what will the process look like?
I think in 5 to 10 years, you as a person, most of the time you won't acknowledge that you paid.
Yes.
I think this will be very much in the background. We see that already. I mean, I'm also sure you heard about Amazon Go that's coming. This is still early stage.
Yes.
It's still early stage to have that one, to imagine having that one in every store. But I mean, the technology is here now for the payment stuff. We also can do that. I mean, we also have already talks to merchants. Yeah. And for us, it's more the question that we say, hey, listen, we can charge a customer wherever you want, merchant, but you must tell us how much do we have to charge. This is more the question. So I think very much, so the payment process will really move in the background. Perhaps you as a customer, once a day, you will look, okay, I paid these 5 things today, or you will receive each time you pay the notification. And so I think this will happen. Sure. It will go in the background. More
moving towards the experience of purchasing,
yes.
And less like the actual payment with painful
I mean, in
by
the end,
definition.
nobody likes to pay.
Yeah.
You have to, but
Yes,
you don't
absolutely.
like to do it. Huh?
Yes,
So.
I really don't want to go too much into it, but I do want to hear your thoughts on it. Is cryptocurrencies. I mean, like it's a big hype at the moment, and I know, and I don't want to go more into whether ICO is good or bad. But do you see a future in cryptocurrencies where it actually replaces the local currencies?
I see two parts in that area. From a national point of view. So now I think you will not use cryptocurrencies to pay in Switzerland, within Switzerland. I really can't imagine doing that. I mean, I might be proven wrong, that might happen. But I think when you go in an e-commerce shop and buy something for 50 francs, or I transfer to you 10 francs, or I go to Coop and buy something for 20, 30 francs, there is no need to change how we do it today, because today it's done super fast. It's done in half a second, then the transaction is through. It's very cheap. It costs a couple of cents, if anything. I don't see that part in the cryptocurrencies at the moment. They're still having a couple of seconds. You don't want to wait for something to pay at the cash at the point of sale 10 seconds, 20 seconds. You're not doing that. This is not possible. And also it's much too expensive today. So I think in that area, really national payment, I don't see it. And also I don't see, because I mean many people have highly confidence in Swiss francs, so why should they change? Sure. Where I see absolutely potential is in cross-border. Cross-border, because they're usually transfers, they go for a couple of days, they're very expensive, and so there I see it in the payment. So I would rather say we will see cross-border payments, cryptocurrencies, not so much nationals. It might be different in countries, perhaps, where you don't have a high confidence in the currency. But I think Switzerland is not.
It
not
sounds, and you don't have to answer, but it sounds it's not on the roadmap of Twint to integrate right now cryptos at the moment.
Oh, that's true.
So before the show, I actually go online and I post to various social media channels such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, but also on my WhatsApp group, and ask people what they would like to hear from the guests that I host on my show. So today I have 3 questions coming up. The first one is from a very good and old friend of mine, Gabriel, and he wants to know more about the sources of income and the business model of Twint.
Yes, basically Twint has 2 sources of income.
Yeah.
One is the traditional payment income. So each transaction that is done via Twint, it generates a fee from the merchant. So, I mean, you can imagine this is a scale business. Once we really reach big scale, then we earn a lot of money. And then the second one is more like in the value-added services, where we say, okay, all these enhanced features might be possible. I mean, it's not done yet business case-wise in all these topics, but as I said before, when we increase the value chain, so we generate value for some people, also for merchants, that we make the process faster and so on. So there, it might be some revenues, and then also with all stamp cards and couponings and so, where we have our system that can be used by merchants, that they can talk to their audience. Because they also want to talk to their audience with a smartphone. So this is another revenue case. Right. So basically, summing it up, it's payment and value-added services.
Sure. The second one is from, I hope I pronounce it correctly, Vinicius Geraldes, from part of my WhatsApp group. And he wants to know, how big is the Apple Pay threat and how does it fit Twint's strategy?
Well, basically for us, I mean, Apple Pay is a competitor, so we're taking it seriously and looking at him. What we see now, and this is for us very encouraging, that we see that people use more Twint than Apple Pay. So those people who use mobile payment, they say, hey, we prefer Twint. We think this has a couple of reasons. I mean, you can connect your bank account, and you can work in e-commerce, you can do peer-to-peer and so on. So we definitely see there the advantage, which we will increase. So for us, I mean, Apple Pay is a competitor, look at it seriously, but we have our strategy and we think it's the right strategy. And
then the last one came in through Twitter from Florin, and he sometimes actually writes reviews for my blog. Okay. So, tech reviews. And he wants to ask the following: why should I sign up for Twint, as it only works within Switzerland, at least for the moment?
Well, signing it up, it's as I mentioned before, but I mean, I can say, I mean, you can pay to other people, you can pay in e-commerce, you can pay in shops, you can connect your bank account. Very important for Swiss people. Switzerland, we don't like that much to connect credit cards. We like to have debited from my bank account. Then every Swiss bank has it, so it's also a matter of trust. So I think these are some of the arguments. And then the national question, this always comes. I must say, yes, it might be sometime a question going international, but it's not in the focus at the moment because we strongly believe that it's first important to have the footprint in Switzerland, and especially also knowing that Swiss people, they have something like 95% of their transactions are done in Switzerland.
Okay.
And so this is absolutely okay.
Well,
and
I guess I'm the 5 other percent.
Yes. I mean, there are
my
other
transactions are mostly abroad.
Yes, there are other transactions, but we have that from statistics. And perhaps one thing also, you are used today to use different payment methods at home than when you go abroad. And I think so. This is definitely not an issue. But yes, I mean, long term, yes. Also, we make thoughts about how can we connect, how can we go international.
Sure. Okay, so who do you admire in the startup world?
I mean, startup world have too much, but I very much admire Elon Musk. How he's doing it. I mean, that's just great. What he's doing, and especially that he's not going for the small profit or the profit, but he really has something in mind and to do something bigger for his country, for the world.
Okay, he's probably the most mentioned person. On
most
the show.
probably,
but,
yes.
Okay, fair enough. What would you like to see in the next 5 years in your ecosystem?
Well, I'd like to see that all Swiss people use Twint. That is just you go around, and perhaps I might see. I'd like to have a situation that we have in China. I was just talking a couple of days ago with somebody from China who said, "Hey, we don't use cash anymore. We pay with smartphones." So yes, that I'd like to see.
Sure. What's the best strategy to get app downloads?
Well, very much. I mean, app downloads is, I think, quite easy.
Yeah.
You must have the value, the value proposition, meaning the people must understand in 5 seconds what it is. So, okay, when Twint we say, hey, this is the future of mobile payment, then I can say, yes, I want to have it, then I download it, or no, I don't want to have it, then I don't download it. So you must really have this value proposition.
Usually I ask the funniest investor story, but maybe here we can substitute investor with a bank. You know, maybe when you reflect on the early days of getting all these banks at one table, like, do you remember any, let's say, funny stories that happened? No names, again, it's more about the story.
Yeah. I remember one quite funny description where there were a couple of people, perhaps of each bank at the table, and then all the people remarked there at the first time, okay, now we are working together in an area, and until now we were all competitors.
Yes.
And this was really a funny or also interesting experience that people really saw that and had that in mind. Okay, something is different now.
I mean, it's definitely revolutionary.
Yes,
to have this is definitely a point in history.
Yes, definitely.
Tell us one thing you learned the hard way, say specifically while building Twint.
You always want to do too much. So you always have on your roadmap, okay, we can do that and that and that as well. So definitely, next time I would focus much more. Focus much more, saying, okay, yes, we'd like to have the 3 things, but hey, do thing 1 and then 2nd and 3rd perhaps as well, and not doing everything together.
Now we get into the expert advice, and I'm very excited because this is always the moment where my guests can shine and leave some legacy for the next generation, where you can really take the moment, about 60 seconds, to give us some advice that you would leave for my audience.
What is special at Twint is that we came out of the corporate world, and perhaps I can share a couple of experience there. It's very important to have your pitch ready, as always, but I really learned that you must show your audience, your management, hey, this is your business case, you can show that in 30 seconds. And we were able really to get the backing of those people. And then what is very much important and what I learned, you must show your personal commitment to a story. You must say not only the story and then telling, especially in the corporate world, somebody else is doing it, but saying, hey, this is the idea, and if we want to move forward, I want to do this. And this really gave the kickstart, especially now at Twint, because, I mean, you must imagine, Twint was started at 0, there was the first paper, and 3 months later, 3 months, we got the approval of the board, not only to do a concept, but to start the company. And so this 3 months, I mean, this is incredible. You do that. And I really take it back to these 2 things. You must show in 30 seconds what it's all about, and you must show personal commitment. And then
storytelling.
Yes. I mean, and it is like that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, good. So thank you very much for being on the show today. Thank you very much, everybody who stayed all the way till the end of this video interview. And make sure to stay a few more seconds so you see who I'm going to feature next week. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Martin Fuchsberger, co-founder and CEO of Drone Harmony. Tune in next Monday and subscribe to the channel.